Hi everyone, welcome to another Disney Infinity tutorial. Hope you're all safe and well. This is my part 2 of how we built my Mandalorian level, which we released last week. And in the stage that we're going to cover today is the communication tower. Now what we do in this part of the game was we had to kill that officer. By killing that officer, basically gets a security key to appear. And by grabbing that security key, we can then go and free the Baby Yodas that are trapped in the prison cells throughout the spaceport with Mos Eisley. So in this, I'm just going to run through just a bit of a gameplay of what we're going to try and do, and then the rest of the clip goes into detail how we built that particular level. Okay. Now, when I released the clip, The Mandalorian, last week, a number of you made a lot of recommendations and pointed out a bit of things we could do with improving the actual level. So I've taken those things on board, although no one had an issue with this first part on grabbing the security key. But I thought, well, hold on, if we're going to look at doing things right, let's see if we can make this a little bit better. So you'll see this is the actual first clip of what we did with the Mandalorian. So this is the structure of it here. So this is how it all appears as the standard one. And taking on the advice that you've given us, we've done a version 2, which I'm about to show you. So this is our first draft. Now this is the slightly improved one, which I'm going to just show you now. Okay, but that's our first part. We get the key and that job's done. So let's now have a look at the second part and we'll go from there. So straight away you can see there's some nice visual changes. We've added some more radio antennae, there's more backdrops. The visuals are that little bit better. So we've spent a little time and improved it. Still the same objective, still the same thing. We've got to kill that officer. And then what I felt was quite funny is that when I was doing the changes, I felt like I was actually being like the computer company EA. And just bear with me on this one, because basically I rushed out to get you the Mandalorian out, and I was too busy and just getting the Mandalorian out and not actually thinking of what the game was needed. So like good old EA, they tend to rush their games. They've got to make their certain targets and profits, and they don't care what state the game's is, and they release it. We'll take Anthem as an example. We'll take DICE on their couple of Battlefront games as well. Their games are good, don't get me wrong, but you know they could have been better. They've just spent a little bit more time. So this is my EA version. It started off pants, and it's now actually not that bad. Yeah, we've got slightly better visuals, we've got better effects, basically like Battlefront 2 is. Battlefront 2 came out okay, a few little issues, and then over the last couple of years they've really tuned it all up, and they've improved the visual graphics, and it's now a lot better. But it's still not perfect, I'm afraid. Nope. So I'm now going to show you another version. This is my final version, okay? And I'm not trying to brag or anything at all, but I class this as my CD Projekt Red version. Now I'm no way as good as those developers, but what I wanted to show the comparison is that when they develop a game, they spend the time to put the game so all the mechanics work. They think of the actual story and get the whole thing out. Now, just briefly showing you here is this is the communication tower. We have to free the Baby Yodas. That existed in the previous game, so don't get me wrong. But our bit here, when we go to our communication, we've got to make it that little bit more. It should have been good from the outset. And that's what EA don't do. They race their games out. If they spend time like Rockstar or CD Projekt Red, their games will be last for better. And that's the thing I think they could have done with Battlefront 2. There's so much they could have done with Battlefront 2, and they didn't do it. They rushed it out, and they've now stopped all support, which to me finds a bit stupid. I know there's going to be minor updates, but they're not going to do any more support on the thing. And that's another thing, it drives me insane. Why tell people you're not going to support it anymore? It just makes me not want to play it. But anyway, that's my rant over. Okay, let's look at what we've done the changes to this part. You'll now notice I now have an inner sanctum inside the communication tower. Okay, so what we've done now is we've created an extra section that when we kill the officer we're going to have an area. Okay, and what we're going to do in this area is we're going to blow up the communication tower. Yeah, because we don't want anyone to know we're on the planet. So while I take out these officers, right, I'm going to save you till last to show you what we're doing. You'll also notice I have weakened the level. I've not gone to too easy, but I can't do it on extreme. It's just I'm not that good. And obviously if you die in this game, it's all over. And just in case anyone's wondered why am I using Ahsoka for the Mandalorian level, there is a rumour she's going to be in Season 2, which would be awesome. I think Boba Fett's going to be in as well, so that's going to be really good. So Ahsoka does still fit the theme. And also the other thing was a little personal dig at Battlefront, because they can't get Ahsoka in the game. DICE wanted to add her. They'd done the artwork for it, but they never released it because DICE had, not DICE, but EA had said no, we're not doing any more money on that, which is a bit of a shame really. But that's it, that's my rant over. I can play Ahsoka in this game, which is awesome. But don't get me started with the Disney executives, because they're Muppets as well. Right, so where's my last one? Right, here's my last guy. Okay, so there's the officer, he's hiding behind the post. Now when I kill him, instead of having the security key appear, it's going to unlock the inner sanctum of the tower. A bit like an Endor type scenario. So anyone wants to copy this, they can do this in their Endor battle. So I just need him to come slightly across a bit. Here we go, that's perfect, and that allows me to execute him clearly. So let's just take him out. Right, so now we kill him, we open up the inner door. You'll see that we have a key there and we have a button. Now it's not like a panic button that I've seen in a recent clip that made me laugh, but it is the button that will set the charges. So when we press that, we have 10 seconds to clear it. Now admittedly, when you see this, you're going to want me to be Han Solo from Endor, like, gonna run, leg it! And if we leg it out, we can do this, and then hey presto, set the charges, boom. I went a little bit early there, but there you go, the tower's exploded. That I didn't even know you could do, by the way. I did that by accident. We have blown our tower up, we've set the scene off. We are now going to go and free our Baby Yoda. So we now go to the prison cell. You'll see the Baby Yoda's in there, and we're all ready to go. Now we're going to show you the comms tower. The Baby Yoda is going to follow later in the week, and we're going to show you how that works. So if you stay tuned, we'll show you all the logic and see how we all put this all together. Now if you followed me on from the previous clip, we should now have your logic set up like this, which dealt with the people and the iron scattered around the base. So what we're going to deal now with is with the communication tower, and we're going to put the logic for the doors to be opening up. Now we have had to make a few little compromises on town people within the city, and you'll notice for some reason I wanted 4 doors opening up to have it all scattered out, because I didn't know whereabouts you were. You may find that we reduce this and make it only 2 doors or even 1 door. So I went over the top, went for 4 doors, and I thought I'd show you it anyway with 4 doors, but you may find the final version, because I still haven't fully tested it yet, the final version may only have 1 door in this whole thing. But these doors just scan down, so it's a path tool, single path, just start and finish, no dots in between, it goes straight down. And you'll see here that I'm lining them up just so they make sure that they fit in with the base unit. Yeah, want to make sure that it's blocked in, they can't get any gap in there whatsoever. Again, pulling them all down and putting 4 doors in. Now that's 4 doors, 4 paths, 4 logics, 4 movements, a lot more technical stuff. And at the moment, if you look at our gauge on the right, we're just in the middle of the yellow. By the time I finish the level at the moment, we're very close to that red, and we are pushing our luck a couple of areas. So I'm going to show you some things we've had to cut down. But one of the things we might do to make my life easy is just do 1 door. Yeah, fill in the other doors in and just have 1 door open up. So if you ever want to do this one and think, gee, I've gone too much, I've put too many doors in, make it simply, just do the 1. It makes your life a lot easier this way. But at least you can see how it works, and then you can choose whether you want to put that in your level or not. So we've got our little 4 doorways. What we're going to need to do with all these paths now is we need to switch the path off. Okay. And door speed, I think we made it 30, so I set that for 30, and you must turn the path off, and you need to do that for all 4 paths. Okay, so I'm just going to flick around and turn all those paths off, which is quite good. So setting those to 30, and that's not my tummy rumbling, by the way, that is the Sarlacc pit, just in case you was thinking. Okay, now also while I'm doing this, I've got a few things to do with the dropships, which we've got a good little changes, which should be good, so hang in there. They should be coming some point towards the end of this coming week. I've just got to test the logic works, but hopefully I'll show you how that works. Okay, so we've now got our path here. What we're going to do now is we now need some simple toys, our little bricks here. So we're going to go through here and get the big giant flat sheets. Okay, one of these. Now what we're going to do here is we're just going to leave them outside. Okay, because the way this works is that you can't, the computer remembers where you first placed them. Okay, so we're just placing these all outside. Now before I move them round, what I should do is change the colour of it first, because I don't have to change it each time. So what we've got to do is with various different tiles we've got, and I can never remember the order of these colours. That's the one that I use for this particular one. So I'm just going to set the theme and apply that, which means I drop it across, because I found if you keep changing the colours as you go through on a large map, it tends to crash it a lot. So try and set the colour first and then carry on building using that colour. It does tend to have a little bit of a meltdown. Again, Sarlacc pit growling, not me. One thing might have to happen, by the way, that Sarlacc pit may have to go. I don't know yet, we'll see if we can keep it, but it might just have to go. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to link all these doors to those particular paths. Yeah, so we're going to connect those to those paths, so toy box path, and link it to that item. You'll notice the path is too high. Yeah, sticking through. So what we're going to do is going to go to the properties of that object. Yeah, and in the toy box path, okay, we're going to scroll down. Okay, and I think we're going to first of all do the first thing is this movement style. Always forget that. It wants to be one way on stop for all of them. Okay, so it wants to be one way and stop, and the vertical we can bring down, and I think we'll bring it down a couple of notches. I think we do it 4. Go down 4. I think 4 should be it. What number did I go? Did I go to 6 down? Could it even be 6? Can't really see from there, can we? What did I choose? You can see I'm dither-daddying around here. I've gone for 6. That says 6 to me. Right, let's have a look. Was that right? No, what a numpty. Went way too low there. So it was definitely 4. Which sometimes you have to do, which is a bit annoying. You have to keep changing. Let's change that back. So did that wrong. Should have been 4. There you go. Right, now that should fill the whole path, which it does. Brilliant. And we're going to do the same with everyone else. So link them to the path, make it one way and stop, and set it to 4. Okay. So toy box path. I thought I'd show the correction now. So let's go down. Go to vertical. Right, -4. Straight in there this time. No messing. And that's the important bit. One way and stop. Now what I've done also is that we've got a bit of editing going across, because obviously I had to make changes after we built the rest of the other stuff. So when I show you some clips in between, you'll notice a load of other object that doesn't exist, and I'll point it out at the time, but that's because I've come back after the event, so apologies for that. I should have done it right the first time. I'll learn that from my next one. And I do have a couple more clips coming through, so I've still got some classic, I've still got Solo's Heist to hold back through, which I'm still working on, but I've got a couple of new ones working as well. So I can't tell you which is coming through, but I've come up with a new gameplay that actually, a test run this weekend actually worked. So I'm quite looking forward to doing that one next, because it's quite new, and I'll leave that as a surprise. But I'll have that in a few weeks' time. Look at it sometime in June. Right, one way and stop. Right. Okay, so that's all 4 doors in position in the case, which is there on the screen. Okay, right. So what we're going to look at, what we'll do now is how do we trigger those off. And we go back to our tools and we flick up and down. Gone too far, come back. I need the, there we go. Right, so if you've seen me do the hangers, it's exactly the same way. Okay, so I need a single logic gate to open the door, and I need 2 logic gates to close the door. But this time when we open the door, we're going to open all of them, so we're just going to put 2 logic gates in here. Yeah, so the 2 are for resetting it, and the single one is for turning them all on. So what we just do is from this logic gate, new logic gate on output, go to the path tool, and can we switch it on? And we need to do that for all 4 doors. Now if you've only got 1 door, you only have to do it once. So again, that's pretty obvious, isn't it really? But you've got to link them all through. So new logic connection. You'll see that you're thinking, well, why are you sticking it here? Because while I'm doing it, I'll keep all the logic close together, and then I'll move this and attach this to the area of code that we've already done in our previous clip. And it's also good to see there's a lot more people posting Disney Infinity clips, I've noticed, and there's some really good ones. So hopefully someone's going to notice it. You never know. You never know what might happen. Fingers crossed. Right, so that turns them all off. Now this one is going to turn all the doors off and reset them. So it has to go and turn them all off. So we're going to go to each path and I'm going to say, can you turn off the path tool? So we're going to turn it off. And you need to do that for every single one. So new logic connection, on output. Okay, and can we turn all these off? I think in total, I've got 3 more clips, by the way, coming after this particular one regarding the Mandalorian level, and that should hopefully be it covered. Everything's done. That's the plan. And I think I'm going to do one more level in Tatooine, but I'll save that till July time. But we'll get there in a moment. Right, so what we're going to do is we're going to input, once we do an output, we're going to input to this logic gate. Now, once we get this logic gate here, what I'm going to then do is go to all the other ones and reset it. Right, so you're going to turn it off, and then you're going to reset it, which brings the gates back up to the top. Now, one of the key things also I want to do is you can't, by logic, repair the building. So when you blow the building up, you have to go into the building and reset it. And I created a logic technique using the replay tool, yeah, that lets me to get rid of the thing and go back on. But because we've got so much going in this level, the replay tool is very temperamental when you've got a big area. And if there's so much logic going on, it just doesn't work, and it wasn't stable enough. I practiced it, it was no good. So sadly, if we want to replay the level, before we do replay the level, we have to come back to the building and repair it when we blow it up. That's the only one downside that niggles me slightly, but there's nothing we can do about that now. It's all finished. Yeah. So that's Aldoy. What we're going to do now is move this all the way back to our little set of logic we've been doing, and we're just going to place this by the side and say, right. So the logic to the right there is to do with the collectibles. This now opens up the door. Okay. Okay, and this here, move this back, it's going to close the door, so we're going to move this all the way back to the side. And again, preach this all the time. The way I'm storing my logic is so I can go back later, or a day later, or 2 days later, and work out what each stage does. I have a little sketchbook where I make all my little notes and diagrams for it, so then I can come back and go, right, what does that do? They are horrendous scribbles, by the way. I thought I'd post them, but no one would make any sense of what they made. And by the way, a lot of you, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but some of you said I should do a live build, Disney Infinity build. I can't do one of those, purely in the fact that the amount of swearing that happens when I'm building. Yeah, it'd be an 18. There'll have people complaining. You'd notice all the mistakes that I would do. Right, now we set this up in my last clip. That's our reset button. So what we can do now is we're going to do new logic on output. Can we reset all the doors? Yeah, and that's what we finished in our last clip. That's our reset button. So that will then reset, clear those, and all the doors reset. Now my next question is, what then does trigger the door? Yeah, and we have a timer here. And that time was used to, you've got 3 minutes to go and collect all the iron. So what we can say is when that timer is expired, it then switches off all the collectibles, so we can't collect any more iron. So what we'll say instead here is, right, when that timer expires, we've done that bit, can you now open up the doors and make those doors appear? So that will trigger off that door scenario. Okay, I'm going to put this logic here. I'll explain why that's in a moment. So in this case here, new logic connection. Okay. When timer expired. Okay, we're going to click onto that, and I'll explain what that other logic gate is there in a moment. Yeah, what we're going to do here is we're going to input into this signal into this gate. Okay, what that is going to do is then going to set all our enemies to appear. Okay, so we're going to put our logic for our enemies for that particular logic gate. That's what that one is. Right, on output of that, what I'm going to do then is say, right, if I want the enemies to appear, can you now trigger the enemies? Now I could have used the timer direct as well. Either one would have worked. In my forehead, in my head, I was thinking, right, use the timer. But what we're saying here is, right, do the one path. That path opens the door. Now we need some enemies to appear. So we're going to have an enemy generator. Now the enemy is going to be some stormtroopers, but I want to kill an officer in particular. Yeah. So to know that I've killed that one officer, I'm going to need an enemy generator as well. Okay. So the timer goes off. I fire this logic gate. This logic then says, right, open the door, and then I'm going to have a wave of stormtroopers appear and also an officer appear. That is the plan. Okay. And we're going to set these up. So we're going to have one officer here, which is cool. And then these are going to be the various troops that we have, and I'm going to have them scattered in different places. So I don't know, do we use 5 of these? I can't remember how many I put in here to start with. I think 5 was the magic number. Right, I think that's 5. So that's where the wave of enemies is going to appear on that section. And that's all triggered from the timer from the clock. Yeah, what we're going to do now is use our locator and link that to our enemy. And now we're going to link each of those 5 to that particular one. So new logic connection and link those 5 up. So once those are all done, what we then need to do is configure our wave. Okay, so they're all connected up now on the screen. Yep. So with our wave little generator, we're going to go down to the properties of that, and we're going to go to configure wave, and we're going to select the individuals we want. Now, if you want them scattered, you need to select them more than once. But I've selected 2 lots here, and I set them both to 5. But because I've only done 2 lots and then increased the number by 5, it will do the stormtroopers first and then the biker scatters. So if you want them in between, you're going to have to add them more than once. So we'll increase those to 5, and there our troops set up. Now the question is, memory is a big issue here, and this is something we have to take into consideration. So we're going to address that now. So what we're going to do is, when I pass this signal through, I'm going to say, right, go and get the enemies to appear. But before that, we've already got people scattered all over the place, so I don't need the enemies to appear straight away. So what we're going to do here is, we're going to have a little time delay. Okay, and remember that first logic gate only gets triggered when that there gets triggered only once the timer runs out and it says get rid of all the clocks. So we're actually going to say, no, what I want you to do here is, when that timer goes off, right, before we get our enemies to appear, can we go and take away the current people? So new logic connection on output, can we get rid of the contact you made? Yeah, and to get rid of it, we know it's that button. So we're going to clear up the memory. So we're going to say, can we now input into that signal? And in the last clip we did, we showed you how to do a reset button. So in that option there, new logic connection on output, yeah, can you go back and can you get rid of those individuals? Now the reason why we do this first and not just get it do all at the same time is that if in Disney Infinity it gets confused, it just basically doesn't play certain logic. Even though the logic exists, it fails. So it'll just say, oh, I'm too busy, and won't bother doing that. So what we're going to do is clear the memory up first. Now we can set the timer going and say, right, now that's cleared. When that time is complete, we've got rid of all those people. Can we now get those people to appear? So on the enemy, we're going to say, go to Rise Against the Republic, and can we have the Imperial officer appear? And on this one, we're going to do new logic connection on time complete. Can you generate the wave? And that way, because there's a delay, it's cleared it off, and it will then trigger those particular items. It's quite vital you do that, and it again keeps things going. But what the user doesn't realise is they're too so focused on the communication tower, they haven't even realised that the other people have all disappeared. Right, another little tool we're going to need is a little collectible, which is the security card. Okay, now the one thing we also be aware of is that we're going to add this logic into the gate. Now sadly it's a collectible, so the reason why that had to be locked away inside the room is that when we do the iron, all the collectibles become visible except that one. So we've trapped that inside the room, and that's why it's inside the communication tower as it is. Okay, now the first thing I'm going to do is that when we send the signal here on output, can you hide that collectible, which will switch it off. It's like a reset button. Yeah. But at the same time, we only want that to appear when the enemy is cleared. So we do a reset on the start of this. So clear that out, have the officer appear, but when we defeat that officer, yeah, we are then going to say, can you reset that, not hide it, reset it, which will now make that visible. I hope that makes sense. A lot there I just chucked in there, but I hope that makes sense. But we hide the thing out of the way, and that is dependent on what we do. Now, this bit we're going to look in our clip later in the week, but when we collect that card, we need to set, we can now activate the 3 computer consoles. So in our creativity toys, there is this little tool here. Okay, and these only become available now since we've collected that card. So I'm going to create these 3 little tools here. Yeah. And what we want to do is, right, what happens? So new logic connection. Yeah. When broken or collected, which is what we're going to do, is what we're going to do with these 3 things, we are going to say, right, can you activate them, and can you now make them switched on? Okay, and at some point, we'll obviously, when we start off, we'll reset it, but I have to do it for all 3, and I'll look at these little communication things later in the week on the next clip when we do the rescuing the Baby Yodas. But we need to set this up now while we're at it, so let's get it all set up. And they're now set up there. Right, so that there triggers it off. One thing we need to look at is how long a time do you want for the things to disappear and clear off. So I'm going to change the properties of that time delay, because default is 1, and I think 3 seconds is enough. That gives enough time to clear out the memory, and then it says great, I can have the new memory to appear. So 3 seconds is about right. So don't forget to change that little property setting as well. Right, so the next bit now is where do we want the people to appear. So what we're going to do now is we're going to grab these, and we're now going to position these around the base. Now the officer is going to appear inside the base. Now remember, this is before I added the extra part, so I'm going to have to rearrange these out. So the idea was the officer would appear bang in the center, but because we're going to add a whole new section to that, which we're going to show you very shortly, we're going to have to move this dot in a moment, so don't worry about that. The stormtroopers we're going to scatter around the base. So I'm just going to grab a couple of these, but I'm just going to pick each of these ones up and just then move that and place them randomly around the communication tower. That'll give us enough there to have the battle. But the key thing here is for it to not clog up the memory, yeah, is clear the memory out for the people and then get those to appear in the screen. Okay, I'm positioning these outside the door so they look like they just appear here on the screen. I won't do all of them, you'll know what I'm doing. One thing I'm doing is if you want the trooper to be facing out, you have to twist it so the blue dot is facing away, otherwise it opens up through the door. So you'll see here the blue dot now is facing away from the door. Right, and I'll move these across. Now obviously I'm going to speed this bit up as well, trying to cut the minutes down. That's facing the right way. Right, so the last thing we need to bring across is the key. The key is the key part. The key's the key part, look at that. Oh, genius. Right, and we're going to dump this now in the middle of the room so that when we do our collectibles and so we go and collect the iron, this will be switched on but no one can see it because all the doors are closed, so it won't actually affect the game. So we keep it isolated. But that's boring level 1, so we're now going to improve this to our other little stage at moments. We'll come back to them at this next stage. So before we move on to the actual logic, one thing we need to do is just tidy up a few things here, and that's making sure that these communication things don't work from day 1. Yeah, so we need to make sure that when we start our game that we switch them all off so they're locked down, and we want to reset a few things just to make sure that we can carry on, or if we fail that we can start again. So what we're going to do is just do our little reset option. So what we can do here is we've got our different tools here, but these need to be switched off, and so do those towers. And we created in the previous clip, again, this is our main reset button. So every time we start a game in our game maker, it's going to trigger that off and clears it off. So what we're going to say here is when we start a game, just in case we died at this particular part, right, can you defeat the enemy, can you get rid of them all? Okay. The other logic you can say is right. New logic section on output. What I'd like you to do is, can you remove any previous enemies? So if I get killed and get sent to the prison cell, which is in Jabba's palace, what I want to do is that when the game ends, or when I start a new game, it wipes any previous out. So we're going to choose here and do remove all. Where's there it is. And also the other thing that we need to do is say, right, when we start a new game and it goes into this box, can we switch off those flipping communications, so make them deactivate those. So we're going to choose deactivate that. And we need to do that for all three. And that is just preparing it up that when we restart the game, that will clear it off so we can do it again without having to read the whole lot back up again. Because again, depending on the level, depending how tricky it will be. Right, they're all switched off, so there's that bit done. And like I say, we'll address these in our next clip, how these work. Right, so what we're here now is we're back to the tail. Now this is the modification section, so I'm just going to move this to one side. And I'm actually going to get rid of the roof. I've decided I'm not going to use that, that can go, it was a waste of space, so let's delete that out. Right, so now we've got our roof open. What I've done is I've used a basic block, and I've already formatted the basic block, as you can see here. Now what you'll notice is you can have the basic block spin round at different angles, and I want you to try and get it as close as you can to the center where we know those pieces are. Now you wouldn't believe this, I had a number of times trying to do this, because what I'm going to try and do is create a ledge to store the dynamite boxes. They're the things that are going to explode. Okay, so I need to try and fit them up. I didn't want to fit in too flush, but these here, you'll notice, are the inside squares. Okay, so they fit very flush, but I need them to be as close as possible, because that's the ridge that the dynamite box is going to sit on, so we're going to run underneath those. So if you see how I position this across. Now I have to say, in my quick draft of this, I put doors either side. Scrap that out again, that pushed the limit over the edge, too many compromises on the memory. So right, so we are very close, and if you now look at my memory gauge on the right there, it's a lot higher now, and when you add people to it, it goes right to the very top. It's an absolute nightmare. So we'll set these up, so you'll see I've got a ledge inside, just there you go. And we're going to leave one entrance there for the door. Makes our life nice and easy. Okay, that's that bit done. And that's the Death Star floor that I used. Right, so the next thing we'll do is going to do a path. So again, just like the other doors that we did at the beginning of this clip, we're just going to do a door straight down. So click onto there and drag that straight down. Again, this is a new path down here on the side. And what we want to do is make it really easy, just have a single piece. Now this is only 2 bricks high, but you don't have a 2 bricks high piece, so we're going to use a 3-piece door, and we're going to connect to it, and then we're going to move it out the way. That's the plan. First thing we'll do with the door, like we did the other ones, go to properties. You should be dab a hand at this now. Switch it off to 30. Yeah, speed 30, that's a good door speed. And also turn the thing off. So I set this to 30, but I forgot to turn the thing off, which I went back luckily and remembered. So turn the thing off, which is good. Right, now while we're at this particular stage, we might as well chuck in the logic we need. A single logic gate to open the door, and 2 logic gates to switch it off and reset it. Okay, right, so we're now going to get our single door. Right, so I'm going to place a single door in. Now, you don't put the single door in. You notice here, the single door doesn't fit flush. So if I twist it around, now I see it flush, that's the position I have to grab it. Now I can move that in here in the box. And the reason why I put it outside the box, if I put it in there, what it does is I wouldn't be able to put the lid back over the top of it, because it thinks it sticks up, even though it doesn't. So what we're going to do is we're going to link it to that particular path. The toy box path, there you go, but you'll see it's too high up. Okay, so we now need to move that down. So I'm now going to go to the properties of this, first of all change the colour of it to the Geonosis door, and then I'm going to have to move that door down. So let's go to properties of that door, go to Toy Box Path. One thing we need to change it to is one way and stop. Okay, and the other thing is the vertical height. Now you'll see here, I can see the shadow, which is purely by chance. I can see it is, but you do want to come down that number of bricks and choose that to be one way and stop. Now you see I've added this quite well, but it took me a number of little different takes to get this bit right. That does that bit. Perfect. And our little door now is perfectly set up. Cool. Okay, so the other thing we're going to need now is a few other logic gates. Well, not logic gates, we need a few little things here. Right, we need this path tool. This is going to be the fuse that is going to set the explosives off, because we can't actually do any logic with the explosive bombs, which is really annoying. So we're going to set a path that goes across the top there. You see it goes across the top of the door? And what that does is it's going to move a little a locator. And that locator is going to be connected to one of these destruction toys. So when we switch it on, it will travel through, and anything that touches it will be destroyed, and those dynamites are going to be blown up. Now if you look at my how to rob a bank, I did this on a similar thing with rob a bank, and I had a little fire crawl along the screen. So what I need here is I need a dynamic trigger, and that dynamic trigger is going to be linked to locator. Yeah. So I'm going to link this. I'm going to go new logic connection, new locator connection, and link it to that locator. Once that's done, we need to change the properties of the trigger area. So we're going to go into here, and we want the distance to be short, because we don't want ourselves to get killed when it gets set off. So what we're going to do is, can we set it to 3, so it has to be quite close, which is about like a square space between them. So set that to 3, and also you have to change it from this toy to be locator. That's vital. Yeah, without that, that is no good. Okay, right, so what we're going to need now is when that locator travels along that path, it's going to hit a kill switch. Okay, and then we're going to add a kill switch now, as it says. Right, okay, so let's move along here. Let's go and grab a kill switch. Okay, right, so what we can say here is when that locator is entered, so that locator is traveling along, and what we can say, right, new logic connection, when entered. Now I wasn't too sure, because we want to say is it a physical ball, but it's not a physical ball, it's not a team, so I just went with any. Okay, if anyone goes into this thing, so if anyone goes into that locator, yeah, what I'm going to do is we're then going to connect to that kill switch. Yeah, so we'll connect to that, and what we're going to say is you've got various other options, and I just said, right, do you know what, defeat it. Not because you could use just physics. I went, no, just defeat it. So anything that touches that area, defeat it, which will actually by chance blow up the explosives that we set up on this screen. Now the issue here is I don't want to get killed straight away, and plus I want to show the cool effect on the path. So we're going to wait a few seconds to set it off. So the first thing we're going to do is on that path that we set up, we need to go to properties of it, and we need to make sure we switched it off. Right, speed doesn't matter, we don't give a monkeys on there, but we switch it off. So we know the bombs won't blow up straight away. Right, and what we're going to do then is link that locator to the path. I didn't choose that, it should be path location, so cancel that. So go on to this option here. Now when the locators, they don't move straight away. If the path switched off, the locators don't move, which is quite nice, so we can link it to that. So link it to that toy box path. Right, and now we need to go to the properties of the, I think we need to go to properties of that. Do we need that? Don't think it matters actually, no. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to use a timer. Because I want to give ourselves 10 seconds to get out before I don't want to get ourselves killed straight away. So that timer there is important because we're going to set off the path, which will then activate all this setting. So what we're going to say here is property of that timer, we'll say, alright, give us 10 seconds. Yeah. So what we can then do on there is that's our little timer rule that will say, great, what do you want to do? So what triggers that off, and then when it is triggered, what do we want to do? So new logic connection. When timer is complete, so when we've done the timer, yeah, what I'm going to want to do is, can we turn on that? So it says turn on the path. Okay. That will then move our little path move along. At the same time, when you turn it on, we'll say new logic connection. When timer complete, can we activate the logic gate? We need to activate that. That is important. Alright, the default for that value, by the way, is activated, so we've got to make sure we switch it off at the start. But we're going to say, right, when the timer complete, can you turn that on? Right, that'll mean the thing will go through and it'll blow it across on the screen. So that's just checking there. They all link through quite nicely. So when the delay is complete, it turns it all on, which is all good. Okay, now when that tool gets to the end here, we don't want to be able to just because I need to go and repair it. I don't want to die each time. So what I'm going to do here is when the reactor point reaches the end, we're going to new logic connection. When the point reaches on path, can we deactivate that tool? So can we do off? Can you turn that thing flipping off? Therefore, it won't be available again. If I jump up and rebuild it, I don't die. All I've got to do now is go to properties of that one as well, because I'm going to play this as a one-way and stop option. So movement style is one-way and stop. I knew how to move that one. Almost forgot. Okay, so that will link onto there. That'll get triggered through. That will then blow up the various objects. Now when we do a reset, by the way, when we reset the door, I'm going to do new logic on output. Can we switch off that thing? Because we're going to reset the door every time we start level, which will then deactivate that. So that will actually just do that automatically. So on output, can we turn this path off as well? Yeah. Might as well use the same logic as well. And can we do a reset and play as well? On output. Can we do this one as well? So this will do the door. So this one's going to reset both of them. So both those two gates will reset them, but the one on its own will only set the door to open, and the timer will set the other door to open. But this reset will close both of them. Comes in quite handy. Okay, right, so I think we've got that one there. We can, so that does the single door opening, which is good. So that'll be new logic connection. That only has to open the one door, which is the first one. Can we open that? Brilliant. Can we turn that on? And this door only opens up once we kill the officer, so I need to go and change that logic for that particular setting. So the next big question is, how do we trigger the timer? Okay, so we're going to use one of those target buttons. You could use a big chunky button. I'm going to use a big target button. I'm just going to place it in here. Now I was going to put this on the back wall, but you'll notice it wouldn't fit in, and it's like, oh man. So I thought, well, I'm going to do it. So I then actually thought, you know what, let's bring it forward. Let's just bring that section button forward. No one needs to know, yeah? It'll just rest on there, and I'll put a little platform in, but that is going to trigger it. So I wanted to make sure it was below it, but that's my little target button. Press that, that is going to, so I'm just going to click that there and set that in place. Yep, and then I'll just put a little piece on the back of it to fill that in a moment. No. Cool, so what I'm going to do here is new logic connection. When you hit that button, can you start the timer? And that'll give you 10 seconds. So that'll start the timer. So what like I mentioned here, we'll just grab one of these pieces here, because it's all set to the style set. Press it and keep it in, and then I'm going to move it so it fills that in on the screen. There you go, that's a lot better. So that looks a bit more polished. So the thing we're going to do now is go back to our creativity toys, and we're going to find the dynamite, which are in Game Paint toys. Now you'll see a little bit of a weird editing here, because for some strange reason my brain just couldn't cope with where I placed the cubes. They don't flip flush there, they're in the middle. So you'll see this when I put this up, but I was trying to go, it's not going to fit, but they realised they're meant to fit on the two inner side squares. You'll see here I put it right in the middle of the square because I'm thinking of the outer squares, and it's not the outer squares that I want, it's those two lips that I created on purpose, those inside edges. Now you need to put two squares because two squares will blow up the tower. One is not enough, I found out from my test, so I've done that logic for you. You needed two of those. Now those two dynamites are set inside there. They cannot be blown or shot at until you open the door and you press that button. When that path triggers through, it will set them off and then blow up our tower. Now all I need to do now is grab that tower and place that back over the top, and you'll never even know. Sorted. So all we've got to do now is move our logic out of the way. So we're going to grab these and we're going to position these, and again keep them in place. So remember, this is what opens up the inner door. That button opens up the inner door. When does that happen? Well, that inner door only opens up when we've killed the officer. So let's go move that without officer logic. So it's somewhere over here. Where's the officer? Now you'll notice there's a few little extras here because obviously this is the aftermath, and none of that other stuff you see down there has even happened yet, so don't worry about that. And all those green friend enemies, we haven't done those yet, they're the Baby Yodas. We'll worry about that in my next clip, but this is the bit where we did the enemy waves and the officer, so we're going to place this here. So you'll see there's a few little extra stuff we're going to be building on, and this is just a fraction of the logic we're doing for this clip. Okay, so that's the one that switches it on, and I need to move those across. Now I'm showing you every stage of this, so there's no reason why you guys can't give this a go, yeah? Or just build the communication there, just test that part of the screen. Right, so this is the other side of the officer. Right, that's the switch off. I'm going to go and grab the other block. But if you lay your logic out, right, which I preach all the time, things like making adjustments or changing it, you can do it. Yeah, actually I've got that right. Once you're happy with it, you can either move this and hide this all out of the way. I don't like seeing these yet in the game, so I try to hide them away. But I tend to leave it out there if I think I'm going to tweak and play around with it a bit more. Right, now, that's the officer. If he dies, so new logic connection when enemy defeated, we need to open up the door. So we're going to input this one which says open up the door. So input into there. That's already set up. That will now open up the door. The button logic has already been set up inside there. So this bit here is all self-contained. Yeah. So this bit just needs to be stored out of the way, but that's all depending once you press the button. So we can grab that and we can move all this back. So we'll position this underneath here because it's still linked with that particular officer. Okay, I'll grab all these. And that was our little amendment. Now obviously when we save the level and reload it back up, it will reposition that locator back on top of the path, so don't worry about that. And by the way, do I need to say it? But save as you do this, by the way, several times. Yeah, have 3 or 4 versions run at the same time, highly recommend it. Right. That is all set up, that's all good. What we need to do now is our little reset button, what happens when we're game, and we know that's our reset switch. So new logic connection, on output, what do we want to do? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to input onto this one which we know switches everything off. Input into there, close all the doors, switches everything off and deactivates the signal, so that switches that off. Now there is another little tool that we need to add on here, and it's one of these. I think it's the I forgot the name of it. It's something Matic or something. Where is it? It's the blue circle. There it is. It is called the Reset-O-Matic. Any object that's breakable, apart from the brick walls, which is really annoying, doesn't do that. Otherwise, I was going to get you to smash the wall. But any part that is breakable apart from walls, that will reset it. So if we do on output, can we click into there? That will reinsert. So when the explosive, that will put the bombs back in. So you just want to click input that signal, and that resets every one of those items, which is quite good. Right, now there's one little thing we also need to do. Right, I tested this, and the problem we got is because we blew the memory, the friends all appeared, but the person my contact to find did not appear. So sadly, we opened up the wave configurator. That was too much. So I reduced it down to this number. I cut quite a fair bit out. So you'll notice I didn't have 21. I went a lot lower, and that freed up the memory so it would still work. So that was a key adjustment I needed to make. So now this is all set up. We'll just do a bit of a recap in here. When we kill our officer, he dies. The door now opens. Not only does he die, it triggers the key to appear. Okay, we grab the key, and then we'll set it off. Okay, that's all for this clip, by the way. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll find this of use. Anyone want to do an Endor level with this, you can do now. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll try and get the other clip towards the end of the week. Have a good week, stay safe, and I'll speak to you very soon. Thanks for all your support. Love your comments, by the way. Keep them coming. Speak to you soon. Bye.